kitty's being a dildo.
Well, then I know a certain kitty who's sleeping with mommy tonight.
What?
All right, folks, welcome to a brand new podcast here on the Nerd Shit Entertainment channel on all sorts of places. I'll get to that later at the end of where you can follow us. But welcome to South Park in the Dark, a podcast where me and my buddy Swag are going to go through just an awesome journey that I'm looking forward to, full of fun laughs and good times of every episode of South Park as we watch this show become the big deal it is. So give it up for Swag.
Howdy. Man, what a journey it's going to be.
What a journey it's going to be.
There's so many episodes.
Yeah, there's a
in,
lot.
Like a movie and like miniature movies.
Miniature
There's so
movies.
much to this.
Yeah, I think we should follow. I mean, my plan for this is to follow it, in alphabetical order, I guess, or chronologically as it was released in alphabetical order. Fuck. But you know what I mean? From beginning to end. Maybe from time to time, maybe jump around and do episodes that are like special to us if we want to hit them earlier, because let's be real. I mean, there are so many good episodes of South Park, but so many that take place it's like seasons in, and that could take us a while. So I don't know. We'll feel it as it goes, but that's our plan, is to watch all of South Park and kind of talk about it and give our thoughts and kind of look at it in all sorts of ways. Can you put that into words a little better than I can?
No, I think that was goated.
Okay.
No, but I'm excited to really kind of look at some of the transitions of South Park, some of the journey that it goes through, or not the journey, but how it evolves over time.
Yeah.
But then also how it really has established, things in society. We both grew up as teenagers while South Park was going, and I'm sure it had some crazy impacts on like how we socialize with our friends and things that we said throughout like middle school and high school. So
God, dude, even elementary school, Jesus,
right? Yeah.
I'm
excited to kind of deep dive into that.
So it's all sorts of stuff, really. So So I want to go a little bit in the backstory that kind of led us to making this podcast. So the idea came from an old conversation that Swag and I had, where we wanted to watch every episode. We wanted to go from the beginning to end because we just think South Park has a lot. It's like ogres. It has a lot of layers. You know what I mean? And we kind of want to pick into those layers. I always use the example of like a character like Mr. Garrison, who is just a character that it's one character. He's just one guy in the whole series, but that one guy goes from being like the teacher to like he's got the puppet. He's the puppet teacher. Then he becomes the gay guy, right? And then he becomes a woman, and then he goes back from being a woman to just a gay guy for a little bit. At one point, he's Donald Trump. I feel like I'm always missing out, but just that one character.
Spoilers, slow down.
Yeah, well, I imagine anybody who's watching this, they're not. I mean, if they are watching this fresh, that's just one character. So you're gonna hear us talk about that because actually, we're talking about the first episode in this one strictly, but I did go ahead and watch the second one earlier today just to kind of get ahead of that.
You didn't tell me that.
I was just trying to get ahead of it on notes, but okay. I won't talk about it, but it just left me with some thought that we'll dive into. So yeah, that's how we came up with it. But I mean, I also kind of wanted to go into like our some of our backstories with South Park a little. Well, why South Park? Like, why are we doing South Park? You know what I mean? Like I think of South Park as it's my earliest memory of having, not a memory, God, I remember it, but like if somebody was like, what's your favorite show? I was like, oh, South Park for sure, like 100% for a very long time. In the second grade, this is my origin story with South Park. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I was bored one night at my house, as you are as a 7-year-old. And I told my mom this, and she was like, just go watch South Park with your sister. And I did. My sister had a TV in her bedroom. I went in. I watched South Park, and I cannot tell you what episode it was of this. Like, I don't remember that much. I just remember I thought I was going to watch something completely different. Like, I had an idea in my head of this like movie of these kids lost in the woods, and I thought that's what it was. And then it was this fucking show. And I mean, you got to understand a 7-year-old me. You can understand a 7-year-old me just by knowing a 31-year-old me. Like, I always loved cartoons. Cartoons were, especially to 7-year-old me, the most important thing. And this was a very different cartoon to me as a 7-year-old. I was like, whoa, cartoons can be this? Cartoons can be the way I act when nobody's around? You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's most people's introduction to South Park.
Yeah.
You know, we grow up on like Dexter's Laboratory or Ed and Eddie, and we're like, oh, these are pretty out there.
Yeah.
Could be some Nicktoons ones.
Oh God,
You know,
I mean,
like
at this point in time,
Angry Beavers.
I'm watching Rugrats. You know what I mean? Rugrats, Angry Beavers, shit like that. I'm also watching like Digimon and Pokemon, and then all of a sudden, South Park shows up, and it's just like, dude, what a feeling. What a feeling. The thing about it though, I just remember when I was a kid, like none of my friends also watched it. So like it was just me watching this show that nobody else was really allowed to watch. So I couldn't really talk about it with too many people, which sucked. I remember I drew a picture of all of them for like an art project, and I think I got in trouble for it. I think I like wrote the swear words because I thought I thought it was funny. Josh and Ryan, actually, my friends that I've told you about, they also could watch it. So I could talk about it with them, but that was like it. Like other people, so that was a weird time in my life where I just kind of had this show to myself and like some of my cousins to talk about. And I just, you think it's funny as a kid because they're swearing or they're saying like, I remember like, as soon as I got to first grade, public school, that was when I learned to call things retarded, call things gay, you know, the F word, you know, all these things. And South Park characters were saying it too. And I was like, this is so fucking funny. It's been a show that I've connected with. I've probably dropped off more lately. Like there are seasons, I'd say near the end now, that I could probably definitely watch maybe for the first time. But for a good chunk of my life, this was my fucking show. Anytime it was new, anytime it was on, it taught me sex. It taught me about sex. South Park literally taught me about sex before school. I've never to this day have talked to my mom and dad about sex. So still waiting on that one. Hopefully after the kid pops out, we'll have a little birds and the beads. But it's the Lord of the Rings episode where they go to Blockbuster.
I just watched that one too.
Yes, and at the end of it, the parents just explain sex to them. And I just remember being in my bed watching this in like the 5th grade and being like, oh my goodness, what? I can't.
And as we go on this journey, there's like that episode and like there's specific episodes that I'm just so excited to
right, yeah, like, yeah. That's the thing. I can't wait to finish just the first season because I don't know if there's any zingers like that in the first season. I think there might be, but we'll make it fun at least along the way.
I'll give you my little cherry pop into South Park.
Yeah.
I think it was the movie, and I think it was like 4th or 5th grade.
You started with the movie.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I think
that is awesome.
Yeah, I was just up late one night, and it was like a weekend, and like maybe like a Saturday night, like 4th, 5th grade again, and it just came on Comedy Central. I'm like, all right, you know, I'll watch this, and then it was a musical,
right?
And I was automatically in. You know, you're gonna be in no matter what.
Yeah.
But for me, there was just like such a creativity around the music. I was like, this is art.
Totally.
And then they showed cartoon titties on the TV, and so I was like, wow.
Yeah.
5th grade me was like mind blown. Like, they could do this on television. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I was like, anytime South Park is on, there might be music to it plus cartoon titties.
Yes.
So I got to watch.
Yes.
And then I really became a huge fan. And I would say in middle school, my one buddy Adam in middle school, like he watched it too. So every time there's an episode, we would meet each other before homeroom. Right in the middle of the hallway to chat up the South Park episode.
Do your own little South Park in the dark.
Yeah, and like I mean, he's definitely an acquaintance that I haven't even talked to for years now. But for a good portion, like we were close buds because of South Park.
Yeah, brings people together sometimes. Teaches you things.
It does.
It's funny.
You know,
go ahead.
I was like, brings people together like making a podcast.
Totally. And I mean, anymore, it is like when we do watch South Park together, it's usually together or, you know, in groups like that. So that's, I mean, yeah. It's funny. One, the music from the South Park movie, dude. Oh, man. My Zune had all like like they were such fucking bangers.
Zune.
Yeah, dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude. Filled that thing up with it.
Oh my god.
And it's funny that you started with South Park the movie for two reasons. One, that was the one thing I actually wasn't allowed to watch for a while. Like my mom wouldn't let me watch the movie. Now, I say that I remember it was like 5th grade when I then bought it at Walmart and nobody carded me. Crazy times back then.
Nice.
Crazy times. But yeah, by then my mom was a 2nd grader, no, but a 5th grader. He's been hearing us say the F word around this house a lot. That's one of my reasons why it's funny that that's what you started with. Second, I don't know if this is a fact or not. I haven't really looked into it, but I've always got the feeling from the South Park movie that it's kind of the origin story almost. I feel like it's like the like episode 1 actually, like the prime, because they learn about swearing, they learn about all these things. You know what I mean? It to me it feels like an origin, possible type of story, the movie. So the fact that that's the first thing you saw, I'm like, in my mind, that's like perfect to start at.
Yeah, and it was a great starting point, but it's kind of eye-opening jumping into our episode 1 today because I don't think I've ever seen this one.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, then we better.
This was brand new to me.
We better get to talking about that then. I do think we should eventually, because like I said, chronologically, but I think that includes, we'll find out when the movie came out. I think it was in 99. It might have been 2000. But we will try to do an episode.
I think you're at 99.
We'll do a movie episode on that too down the road. But
that'll be a long episode. But yes,
that might be a really long episode. The plan is to keep these short. The plan is to also drop these on Wednesdays is my plan. Like whenever a new episode we record, it'll be out on a Wednesday because I wanted to kind of correlate with South Park, how it aired on Wednesdays at 10 forever. It might still, I don't really know. So that is the plan. But we will hop in. So today, on the very first episode, you are watching us review the very first episode of South Park, episode 1, Cartman Gets an Anal Probe, written by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, directed by Trey Parker. The air date was August 13th, 1997. I was 5. So to put that into a perspective, freshly 5.
I was 3.
Not even 2 months into it. So, Swag, honestly, dude, I want to hear your immediate thoughts. I'll get into some stuff. I have some notes, but you just watched this for the first time. That's crazy to me. I want to hear what you thought.
So, I remember we were talking about it, like, you said, it's a doozy to get through. And I kept thinking, like, what do you mean? I've watched this before. This is when they go up in the spaceship, right? I kept thinking this is, season 7, episode 1, when they redo this entire episode?
Yes, with the special effects.
Yeah, and then like there's a whole like other like back end to it they do.
Yes.
So
you thought that was the episode you were getting.
Yeah, and like looking at the animations, like, all right, this is not that episode.
Dude.
And the voices, everything was just
it was episode
so
1.
rough.
Yes. Dude. Yeah. Like well, here's a fun fact. It's the only episode animated largely without the use of computer technology. So it's the only one. You notice a difference immediately in episode 2 where the show looks exactly how it does to this day. But episode 1 is kind of off visually, and that's why.
Is it all cardboard paper?
It's the cutout paper, and they use like a stop motion, kind of like Robot Chicken style of filming. Yeah. And you can tell, like you can really, like you see their bodies kind of stretching off each other. The way the mouths are, I don't know if you noticed that. But
yeah.
It's really noticeable in the mouths.
Ranting.
Yes.
Yeah, when Kyle was yelling at one point, I was like, oh my goodness, that's just wild.
It's like their mouths are just a little too low at times, I think.
It was certainly an episode. There's so many things that we know about South Park and how it evolves into what we know of it today.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of watch this like there's these themes that they develop early on for like the first like 10 seasons or somewhere where they kind of get a little here and there with like how much they want to continue all the inside jokes.
Mm-hmm.
But like Kenny dies.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we get our very first
right,
Kenny
great.
death. Yeah.
You get sand throwing up.
And the thing about the Kenny death is, I have that. I have notes on that too. But the thing about the Kenny death is, they fake him out twice. It's the 3rd time that he actually dies, and that was something. You know what I mean?
Did you catch who kills Kenny?
Who kills Kenny? Doesn't he get shot by something that comes out of Cartman's ass? I've watched this twice in a couple days. You think I'd remember? Something hits him and he goes flying.
Yep. Officer Barbrady is the first person to kill Kenny.
Gotcha. Because he's chasing the cows and they're driving by. Yep.
And so I wanted to pause it just to make sure. And it's so funny because his face is not even looking at the road. His face is looking at the boys passing by. So he just doesn't even see Kenny. And just, boom, done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Officer Barbrady of all people is the first person to kill Kenny.
Yeah, wow. That is a nice catch. I think I got thrown off by the fact that 3 things happened to him. But I didn't actually count the kill shot, but it was Officer Barbrady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good catch. That was pretty fun. Yeah, well, that's so I wanted to just throw in all this because it's like something we'll keep up with throughout. But like in the first episode, we're introduced to, Cartman, Kenny, Kyle, Stan. But we also get our first appearances of Ike, Chef, Mrs. Crabtree, which, oh boy, Officer Barbrady, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Hat, Mrs. Cartman, Kitty, and Wendy. That's a pretty and that's just like named characters. You see other characters in the episode. They just don't have their names yet.
Excuse me. Yeah, I was wondering if we're going to acknowledge every character because I was actually surprised how many characters showed up. Yeah,
because Pip is in there at one point.
Yeah, and you can see Token and Butters in the class.
Yep.
But I've noticed that some of the whole full class, a lot of the more popular girls like Bebe is not present. Sure. But Wendy does show up, even though she's not in the class.
Right.
So it's an interesting first style of episode where they're kind of like, here, we'll just make our universe like it is, and then they kind of switch things up nonchalantly as they go. Yeah. Not that we haven't reviewed them yet, but
Right. Well, it's kind of, I was looking into the episode. They actually cut, I think, 7 minutes from it so that it could air on television at the time. So that we might have got more interest. I think Pip was supposed to be a larger character, so we might have even met him had it gone.
Well, and so the unaired pilot is essentially this episode with that extra time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have the South Park wiki pulled up.
Nice.
Where the unaired pilot, season 0, episode 1, and not the Spirit of Christmas.
Not the Spirit of Christmas. Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll review that at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I think to save time, they cut 4 to 7 minutes of it.
Yeah. Who knows what we could have got? I think it's long enough for what it is. It does what it needs to. It establishes our characters really well. I mean, for the most part, nobody's really who they become, but you can see their, how they start. It's like Cartman. Cartman in his own way is he's not entirely the sociopath we know him as today, but there's signs he literally sees a satellite sticking out of his ass and he's just like, shut up, you guys. I don't
yeah.
Cartman forms his own reality, even if a fucking satellite dish or he's farting fire, coming out of his ass, he's still just no. So little things that become they really mold later on. You start noticing you get the first I've learned a lesson with Kyle, or I've learned something today. Yeah. Little things like that.
And then his brother matters, and then he just goes up into a
just slips the fuck out. Yeah. That part made me laugh both times I watched it.
I did really enjoy that.
Just that turn. It just beeps it all out.
Specifically Cartman. They kind of lean more onto his fatness, and then his being so a sociopath, being on Kyle, being a Jew, and all those things.
Oh yeah, those don't come till much later. Not much.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see when Cartman just starts becoming, I'm not even sure the correct term, just so hateful and spiteful towards minority groups, especially.
Right. I think
xenophobic, probably.
Yeah, I think that comes a little sooner, and then they just I think you'll start seeing that probably in this season, little by little, and then you watch it slowly become Eric Cartman. So that's fun. No Randy in this episode. It's funny how they're one of the biggest characters in the show right now, not even in the first episode.
And I do feel South Park, became a Randy show for a while. So
it still is sometimes. It still is.
Yeah, I've his little cut-ins in the early seasons is fun to watch. I think.
Yeah.
But you get Kenny being pretty much a perverted kid you can't
Oh,
understand.
Kenny. Yeah. We all had a friend like Kenny growing up. Just like the one that knows all the dirty shit, that teaches the other guys like what shit is.
Right.
Yeah. Like the episode literally opens up with a fucking dildo joke. Like, you're a fucking dildo. And maybe not fucking. I don't know if they say the F word too much, but you're a dildo. And they're just like, we don't know what that is. And then Kenny mutters something, which if you pay close attention, he's actually saying it. What are you looking up?
I mean, did you ever know what Kenny says in the theme song?
I have. It changes. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's changed over time.
Yeah, I
changed
like
it every
girls
couple
with
seasons.
Big fat titties. I like girls with deep vaginas. Season 1, season 2.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm reading the other seasons. I didn't realize it changed this much.
Yeah, it changes a lot. I've looked into it in the past, but I haven't in a while.
So yeah, you just got Kenny. He's just that kid.
Well,
I mean, again, they don't play as white trash just yet, but I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, you just kind of get a hint that that's what he is, because he knows all. Like, he must have, negligent parents for him to have this information.
Well, and there was one point where it was Wendy wants to meet Stan by the lake, and Kenny says something, but Stan responds, I don't think she has a cat.
Right, yes.
And I'm like, what did he say?
And then they all laugh, and it's just like, well, it's something about a pussy. You would imagine. Yeah, Kenny's a fun character, because, like, seriously, the first few years of my life, I didn't know that there were, like, I just figured they went along with what he said. They heard it, they understood it. But if you listen, you can hear it. Like, they're recording, like, somebody is putting their hand on the room, and that's Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets away with the most, like, uncensored fucks throughout the series. Shits before shit got bleeped or unbleeped. Yeah. Kenny's fun. And I mean, that's another character with an arc.
Well, and I believe that's what Trey Parker and Matt Stone wanted to do. They wanted to create a character where there wasn't censored.
Yeah.
And so they did.
They did a good job with it. Stan kind of grows throughout the episode for me. Like, so the episode kicks off, they're singing immediately. That was really weird. Like, just the way the episode starts feels like it's their first episode that they're just pulling it, because the theme song's barely done. It's like a flash of a second maybe, and they're just la 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 going to school, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck? You just get punched in the face by everything. And then Stan would talk, and I'd be like, he's the only one that just sounds like the voice actor, which I think is Trey or Matt. I'm not sure which one. Just talking, and it doesn't sound like it's aimed toward anything. It's just Stan talking like this. And that was a little weird at first for me. But then by the end of the episode, he's more of a character. He's puking on Wendy. A bit that it goes on for quite some time. They roll with that shit for a while before they get rid of it. Almost. Yeah. He does it in the movie, I think, too, even. So, years.
He does. So, yeah, I have that he puked 4 times in this episode.
4 times. Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's more than the movie.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've watched the movie that I'd need to, especially I never counted. The fact that you even counted today, nice catch. 4 pukes, and they count the shit in his puke, or they look at it at the end of it.
Yeah, or at the end, yeah. Yeah, no, actually, Wendy's introduction, since it was my first time seeing the episode, noticing Wendy wasn't in the class. I mean, the class is like half the size from what the class becomes.
Right, and a lot of characters, there's a lot of characters we know in there, but there's also a lot of characters that we'll never see again in there.
Right, they're just, villains. Yeah. I mean, Togen's there, so you got to keep Togen around.
Right, Togen, Butters. Tolkien. We'll get there.
But like, I was like, oh, where's Wendy? And then they introduced Wendy at lunch. And then once they do that, I'm like, all right, when's Sam throwing up? And I'm glad they put that in, because I was kind of like wondering, what is the origin from this? I didn't realize that like Stan's got a just real problem with puking, like 4 times in the episode.
Yeah. His being nervous around the girl he likes causes him to throw up at or on her.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, so that's the whole origin to it. Is it just started in the first episode, and they rolled with it for a long time. Which that's South Park. They will roll with a joke if they think it's funny. They will roll with it for as long as they have to. That's why we got Integrity Farms till maybe we die. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going on for a minute. Overall, I mean, the episode was, I just think, pretty, I don't want to say boilerplate, because it was not even established. It was establishing who they are as South Park. But it honestly, it really didn't feel like South Park until Kyle going off and swearing a lot. Like, it felt just kind of contained. There's this little cartoon about these kids, and there's a satellite dish in Cartman's ass.
Mhm.
Cartman's fat. Mom makes him fat. Mom's also kind of a hoe with the cat being a dildo. There's, I don't know. I guess that's a part that plays in the South Park more and more. Now that I say it.
Yeah. But just as it is,
the raunchiness of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a very casual episode for the most part.
Yeah. I did read that.
Maybe we're just desensitized from like.
Well, definitely. We have seen a lot of South Park to go back to just a very, I mean, like I said to you when I watched it the first time, I was like, it's very basic. It's a very straightforward, run-of-the-mill South Park. Before their genius was really put into it, it's just like, let's try to be funny. Let's try to make something that we can get a second episode out of. And I actually read that it was a premiere, it did not do super great, but they were already signed on for a season, so it didn't matter. And then the second episode went on till like people loved it, and then the South Park just boom, 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 went to lots of places. I mean, Jesus Christ. But yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. It's not an episode that, because of that, we can really dive into much, because not much to say. We get introduced to Chef. He sings about love to the kids when they ask about a simple problem. Like, why bad? Let me sing you this song about making love. So you learn who Chef is. The characters we meet, we do get to understand what South Park is going to become early on.
Like Kenny establishes himself. Chef does.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like, Mr. Garrison. I debated making the intro to our episode being when Kyle asks Mr. Garrison if he can leave school, and he's like, ask Mr. Hat. Mr. Hat's just like, yeah, you go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
That's
I guess you gotta go back to your seat, Kyle.
I was writing down notes during that. I was just like, oh my God, Mr. Hat, was that mean?
Yeah, dude.
That one took me off guard.
Has a character arc, for crying out loud, that we'll get through. I had forgotten he doesn't have eyes in this episode. I'm not sure if he has eyes through the first season. At one point he gets eyes, but he was just a hat with the bottom of a face in this one.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So we get, those little moments. Bar Brady's an idiot cop who literally kills Kenny.
Oh, God, I love
So you get that idea of like, kids aren't super smart either in this world, but the adults might be dumber. And that never ends, really. And the kids honestly become the geniuses by the end, or not by the end, but, few seasons in, and the adults stay stupid. And I just love it. I can't wait to get to some episodes.
Honestly, it really has become like the female adults in the show, the women, for the most part, not Mr. Garrison, Mrs. Garrison, are like the most intelligent ones.
For sure.
You see like Stan's mom being the most rational.
Yeah, and she kind of stays rational.
Yeah, like she's always like, what the hell?
Well, Randy's not a fucking lunatic either for a while. Like, watching Randy's going to be fun, because he's stupid, kind of like the adults are, but he's not insane. You know what I mean? Like, he's just the geologist in the town and Stan's dad. And then at some point there's a shift, and
he becomes Lord.
I'm so excited to get to these points. That's the thing, the first episode's great, but there's so many characters and so many things I want to talk about. And all in all, great start. You get a lot of the groundwork, which is important in a premiere. Kick the baby.
I really want to kick the baby.
Don't kick the baby. I mean, that was on T-shirts, for Christ's sake. Like,
yeah, I really want to look up. So in Cartman's house, there's
a picture of a woman,
a
real person. Yeah. I didn't,
and also all of the house decorations is like so different than what we know.
Yeah.
And I really want to, I'm sure it's like a Trey Parker or Matt Stone like relative or something.
Maybe.
Close.
I mean, that's the thing.
Just to screw with them.
Those early episodes of South Park have like pictures of real life people scattered throughout them.
Yeah.
It's a big theme of theirs. But I was going to look into who that woman was, but I didn't get a chance to.
It's a picture of Matt Stone's sister.
Matt Stone's, fair enough. Simple cameo, but it did catch my eye as well.
I mean, how can it not? You're like, who the hell is this real person in this cartoon?
Just in this kid's house. No, Kitty, that's a bad Kitty. Cheesy boobs, all the greats.
I got two more things that I just think they're interesting for South Park in general. They mentioned at the end David Caruso.
His career.
Yeah, I don't know who David Caruso is. I'm looking at his Wikipedia. I'm never going to really care who David Caruso is, but it's this interesting theme how they do acknowledge famous actors or actresses. Like in the first, like when we were growing up, when it was coming out, like we didn't know any of these people. I mean, look at the movie like Don Boitano. No, I just butchered that name.
Brian Boitano.
The one musical.
Yeah, Brian Boitano do the Olympic
I have no idea
figure
who that person
skater
is. Oh no, I have no idea. So look at that. I learned something today. They reference these people that are really niche. You know that they're not the big ones like the Fudge Packer episode or anything like that. So I think I do like that theme. I do think it's interesting though how they just. I feel like there's some sort of vendetta there for one of the creators.
You think?
Like, why David Caruso? Like, why this one random actor?
They've always kind of done that. You know what I mean? Like, they still just, like, grab current relevant figures that are famous and pick at them. You know what I mean? Randy is Lord. Who's, if somebody hadn't watched South Park in the past 10 years, they might be like, who's Lord? Was that somebody at that point in time? You know what I mean?
That's true.
So that's how I feel. That's how I felt with the David Caruso joke and things like that. It's just the opening.
I guess he was way more popular in the 80s.
For sure.
The late 80s, so like, going into the 90s.
When his career was literally jumping out of a UFO. It's crashing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that is.
Yeah.
So I do like the, at least that work where I'm looking at the Wikipedia page up because I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to have a really fun time with every episode. The stuff we don't remember or don't know to look into and talk about, too. Because, I mean, South Park it gets to a point where it is very, whatever was going on in the time is the prevalent piece of the storyline.
Oh, right. Yeah. Very, very big societal impact on the show and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then we got to say that Primus is the artist of the South Park theme song.
Right. Yes. I was thinking about making that our theme song as well, but I was like, nah, that I'll probably have to pay for that. So
have you listened to Primus or seen a Primus like music video or live performance?
Yeah. When I was in like high school, yeah. Because what he does,
really weird guy.
John the Fisher. No. Yeah. That Primus, John the Fisherman? I might have that wrong.
Fisher. Yep.
Yeah.
John the Fisherman by Primus.
Yeah.
But there's a 25th anniversary South Park thing at Red Rocks I did, and Primus obviously opened for it.
That's awesome.
Dude, great stuff. I mean, just somebody that I did not know wrote the theme song or ever existed. Interesting guy, good music.
Yeah.
Funk metal is his genre.
And yeah, I mean, it takes a weird guy like that to make the intro to a show that's very similar to him.
Right.
Legendary.
But yeah, but that's all I got on this episode of South Park.
That's really all I got on this episode of South Park, too. I love it. Still was funny. Laughed. Not as much as I usually do. But, I've also seen this episode a fuck ton. So I bet it was fun for you. I think you had a really good experience knowing that you'd never seen it before.
It was a weird experience.
Yeah. It's going to be a while before I reach that point. Yeah. All right.
I'm glad to see the OG,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where everything started.
Got to see where they start. And it makes you appreciate literally every episode after that. It's all done. Anything that you could pick at that one, it's better than buy the next one and then stays the quality it is. Basically to this day, which is going to be fun to dive into. So, all right, well, that is our first episode of South Park in the Dark. Hopefully we didn't ramble on to some topics a little too long. We'll get better with it as time goes on. The first episode, we're just figuring out the kinks. Hopefully we're still good. And anything to say to our viewers before we head out, Swag?
Smash that like button. No, thanks for listening. Hope you stick with it as we stick with it, as we deep dive into every single piece of South Park content we can. The next,
who knows how long
X amount of episodes.
It could take.
It's gonna be a minute.
It's gonna be a journey, but we'll be there with you through it, everyone. All right then. Well, good night then, everybody.
We're